A woman in the dementia wing of a nursing home says to a man sitting nearby, I can guess your exact age just by feeling you know, your boys. The man looks at her, shocked. No way. Sure I can, she insists. I'll even bet you 20 bucks. He chuckles. All right, you're on. He looks around, then drops his pants. Go ahead. She reaches out, takes her time, gently, evaluating. Then she says, You're 84 years and 3 months. The man jumps back, wide-eyed. Wah! That's exactly right. How did you know? He pulls up his trousers and hands over the 20. She smiles sweetly and says, You told me yesterday. A man walks into the bedroom and finds his wife furiously packing a suitcase. Surprised, he asks, What are you doing? Without missing a beat, she snaps, I'm moving to London. I heard that prost there get paid £400 for doing what I do for you for free. Later that night, as she's about to leave, she walks back into the bedroom, only to find her husband packing his own suitcase. Confused, she asks, And where do you think you're going? He grins and replies, I'm coming too. I want to see how you plan to live on £800 a year. Wife asks her husband, will he remarry if she dies? Husband, no, how can I think of remarrying? Wife, why not? You would need a partner for your bad times. Please remarry if I die. Husband, you are so sweet. Even after death, you are worried about me. Wife, will you let her use my car? Husband, of course not. Wife, will you give my jewelry to her? Husband, not at all. I have some of my memories attached to it. I will keep it as your memory. Wife, will you give my shoes to her husband? No way. Her size is 5 and yours is 7. A new retirement home had just opened in the community, with separate floors designated for men and women. After the first few weeks, the staff gathered all the residents in the recreation room to go over the house rules. The main rule was made clear. No men were allowed on the women's floor, and no women were allowed on the men's floor after hours. Any violations would result in fines, 20 for the first offense, 50 for the second, and 100 for the third. Suddenly, a hand shot up from the back of the room and a voice asked, How much for a season pass? An elderly couple are driving across the country. The woman is behind the wheel when she gets pulled over by a highway patrol officer. The officer says, Ma'am, did you know you were speeding? The woman, hard of hearing, turns to her husband and asks, What did he say? The old man shouts, He said you were speeding. The officer then says, May I see your license? Again, the woman turns to her husband. What did he say? He wants to see your license, the man shouts back. She hands over her license, and the officer takes a look. He says with a chuckle, Tallahassee, Florida? I went on a blind date with someone from there once. It didn't go well at all. The woman, confused, turns to her husband and asks, What did he say? The husband replies, He thinks he remembers you. Jake was dying. His wife, Becky, sat quietly beside him, holding his frail hand as a single candle flickered in the room. Her eyes were full of tears, and her soft praying stirred Jake from his sleep. My darling Becky, he whispered. Hush, my love, she said gently. Just rest. No, there's something I need to confess before I go. Shh, she soothed. You need your strength. Please, Becky, I need to say this. I want to die with a clean conscience. I slept with your sister, your best friend, her best friend, and your mother. Becky took a deep breath, then softly patted his hand. I know, she said calmly. That's why I poisoned you. A little boy and his grandpa are outside raking leaves when the boy spots an earthworm wriggling around, trying to squirm back into its hole. Grandpa, I bet you $5 I can get that worm back in its hole. the boy says proudly. Grandpa, grinning, replies, $5? Ha! You've got yourself a deal, kid. That worm's too wiggly and limp. It'll never happen. Challenge accepted. The little boy runs into the house and returns with a can of hairspray, because apparently every good plan involves hairspray. He sprays the worm until it's as stiff as a broomstick and carefully slides it back into the hole. Grandpa, impressed, hands the boy $5, but that's not the end. Grandpa suddenly snatches the hairspray can and bolts into the house like he's just found the fountain of youth. 30 minutes later, Grandpa comes back out, grinning from ear to ear, and hands the boy another $5. Grandpa, the boy says, confused, you already gave me $5. An angry wife was complaining about her husband spending all his free time in a bar, so one night he took her along with him. What will you have? He asked. Oh, I don't know. The same as you, I suppose, she replied. So the husband ordered a couple of Jack Daniels and threw his down in one shot. His wife watched him, then took a sip from her glass and immediately spat it out. Yuck, that's terrible, she spluttered. I don't know how you can drink this stuff. Well, there you go, cried the husband. And you think I'm out enjoying myself every night. It was a bustling December afternoon, and a couple found themselves navigating the crowded shopping center, trying to check off their long list of Christmas tasks. In the midst of the chaos, the wife realized her husband had disappeared. Frustrated and with so much left to do, she quickly pulled out her phone and called him. Where did you go? She asked, exasperated. We still have so much to get done. Her husband's voice softened on the other end. Do you remember that jewelry store we visited about 10 years ago? The one where you saw that beautiful diamond necklace? You loved it so much, but I couldn't afford it back then. I promised you that someday I would get it for you. Her heart stopped for a moment as memories flooded back. Her eyes welled up with tears and she smiled, her voice catching in her throat. Yes, of course I remember, she whispered, overcome with emotion. I'm standing right next to that jewelry store, he continued. Her heart raced with hope and excitement. And I'm in the gun shop next door, he finished. Tears turned to laughter, and with a mixture of love and exasperation, she shook her head. Even after all these years, her husband never failed to surprise her. A woman sends a text to her husband. Honey, don't forget to buy bread when you come home from work and your girlfriend Valerie greets you. Husband. Who is Valerie? Wife. Nobody. I just wanted you to answer, to have confirmation that you saw my text. Husband. But I'm with Valerie right now. I thought you saw me. Wife. What? Where are you? Husband. Near the bakery. Wife. Wait, I'm coming right now. After 5 minutes, his wife sends a message. Wife. I'm at the bakery. Where are you? Husband. I'm at work. Now that you're at the bakery, buy the bread. When my son was born, the doctor looked a little nervous. Then he said, Sir, your baby has 5 peanuts. I was stunned. His mother started crying, total silence in the room. Then, from the corner, his uncle just smirked and said, Well, I guess his underpants are gonna fit him like a glove. I was stopped by the cops in control, and one of the officers was convinced that I was drunk. I had to answer some questions which would determine whether I was under the influence or sober. Cop. If you are driving on a road and see 2 lights, what is it? A car, I think, I replied. Okay, but is it a Chrysler, GM, or Buick? No clue, I replied. You're drunk, he said. I shook my head slightly, being caught off guard. But if you meet 1 light then? He asked. Probably a motorcycle, I replied. Okay, but is it a Honda, or a Suzuki? No clue, I replied. You're drunk, he said again. Now I was a little angry and asked the arrogant officer a question. If you see a woman at a corner with Fishnet stockings, mini skirt, high-heeled shoes, and lots of makeup. What can it be? Ha! The cop said, "It is of course a whore." "Correct," I replied. "But is it your wife, daughter, or mother?" They seized my driver's license. A Kentucky teacher was quizzing her students. "Johnny, who signed the Declaration of Independence?" He said, "If I know." She was a little put out by his swearing, so she told him to go home and to bring his father with him when he came back. Next day, the father came with his son, sat in the back of the room to observe. She started back in on her quiz and finally got back to the boy. "Now, Johnny, I'll ask you again. Who signed the Declaration of Independence?" "Well, teacher," Johnny said, "I told you I didn't know." The father jumped up in the back, pointed a stern finger at his son, and said, "Johnny, if you signed that thing, you will better admit it." Jenny gets her first period in the middle of class. Flustered and unsure of what's happening, her teacher sends her home to talk to her parents. On her way back, she's crossing a bridge, sniffling and wiping her eyes. That's when she runs into little Johnny, who's skipping school. Curious, he asks, "Hey, why are you crying?" Through her tears, she sobs, I'm bleeding and I don't know why." Johnny, wide-eyed, says, "Show me." Not knowing what else to do, she obliges. Johnny takes one look and screams, "Holy crap, no wonder you're bleeding. Somebody chopped your thing off." Little Johnny's teacher decided to have a contest. She got up in front of all the students and announced, "From now on, every Thursday afternoon before dismissal, I will ask a question. If someone in the class can give me the correct answer, there will be no class on Friday." Well, the kids went wild. They thought this is going to be so easy, so that next Thursday the teacher asked, "How many grains of sand are on the beach at Daytona Beach?" Not one kid could answer. "Well," she said, "we will have class tomorrow." The next week, Thursday came and she asked, "How many drops of water have gone over the Niagara Falls since it started?" The kids could not answer, so she said, "We will be having class tomorrow since no one knows the answer." This went on for a couple of more weeks until little Johnny came up with an idea. The next Thursday, he put his plan into action. As the teacher got ready to ask the question, she turned her back to the students. When she did, little Johnny rolled to black balls up the aisle right to her feet. As she turned around and saw them, she asked, "Who is the comedian with the 2 black balls?" Little Johnny answered loudly, "Bill Cosby," and "I'll see you Monday, teacher," as he walked out of the classroom. A sweet old lady from Texas decided to take a solo day of sightseeing in Mexico before her adult sons arrived for vacation. That evening, she treated herself to a beautiful little restaurant and ordered a tequila while enjoying the view. At the next table, a couple was served a fancy dish, beautifully plated with 2 enormous, meatballs. Curious, the lady called the waiter over and asked, "Excuse me, what is that?" The waiter smiled and said, "Ah, señora, that is cojones de toro, a special delicacy from the bullfight this morning. Very rare, very famous." The lady paused, raised an eyebrow, and said, "You know what? I'm feeling adventurous. I'll take one." The waiter leaned in gently. "I'm very sorry, señora. There's only 1 order per day. 1 bullfight, 1 bull." Not discouraged, she came back early the next day and proudly placed her order. That evening, they brought out the dish. It was beautifully served, but noticeably smaller than what she remembered seeing the night before. She took a bite, absolutely delicious, but then motioned to the waiter. "These are fantastic," she said politely, "but they seem a lot smaller than yesterday's. Why is that?" The waiter gave a little shrug and smiled. "Si, señora. Sometimes the bull wins." A man came home from work one day to find chaos. His 3 kids were outside, still in their pajamas, happily playing in the mud. Empty food boxes and wrappers littered the front yard like it was the aftermath of a toddler party gone rogue. His wife's car door was wide open. The front door was also ajar. And the dog? Nowhere to be found. Nervously, he stepped inside and was greeted by an even bigger disaster. A lamp had been knocked over, and the throw rug looked like it had tried to make a break for it, wadded up against a wall. The TV was blaring cartoons at full volume, and the family room was a battlefield of toys and stray clothing. The kitchen? Oh boy. Dishes piled high in the sink, breakfast remnants clung to the counters like they'd been abandoned mid-bite. The fridge was hanging wide open, dog food spilled everywhere, and there was even a pile of sand by the back door. Because why not? Alarmed, he rushed upstairs, tiptoeing over more toys and piles of clothes, his mind racing. Was his wife okay? Did something terrible happen? As he neared the bathroom, a small trickle of water greeted him from beneath the door. Peeking inside, he saw a scene straight out of a toddler's dream. Wet towels, soap scum, toys everywhere, toilet paper unspooled into an epic pile, and toothpaste smeared like modern art across the mirror and walls. Panicking, he dashed to the bedroom, and there she was. His wife, lying in bed, still in her pajamas, casually reading a novel as if it were just another Tuesday. She looked up at him with a serene smile and asked, "So, how was your day?" Still in shock, he sputtered, "What on earth happened here today?" With a grin, she said, "You know how every day when you come home, you ask me what I do all day?" He nodded, his mouth still hanging open. "Well," she said, closing her book and stretching out, "today, I didn't do it."